disagreements over exactly where it should pass. And in 2000, Miklos Pinter sided with Israel. And for some reason, Hezbollah did not pick that up as a reason for, a continuation of the resistance. They chose the Sheba farms. I think they chose the Sheba farms because if they choose this, had they chosen this region, this is heavily populated by Jewish communities over here. Israel would not have been able to tolerate border skirmishes there. Sheba farms is uninhabited. You can pound there for day and night, and if Israel doesn't have any interest to fight, to shoot back, then okay, let them pound. But not in that area.
That's very interesting. Well, one last question.
Hi, Ray Milevsky from the Office of Geographer and State. You find instances where you have fuzzy borders, boundary creep by the local population. You see it in Chaman in Afghanistan, Shkin and Angora in Afghanistan as well. And as you said, the line doesn't divide sovereignty. And for us, the United States, in our depiction of the blue line, it only represents a line of withdrawal and nothing more. The actual border is the Syria-Lebanon boundary, which was fuzzy. And your approach to perhaps making some sort of arrangement that doesn't affect the alignment of the blue line, because the blue line is still in effect, is a viable one. How do you think you can implement that arrangement?
Honestly, I do not know. I have no answers to this because I am a historian of the modern Middle East, and I think this is a major challenge. As I've already said earlier, I think interest should arise here. Somehow the parties should have an interest in order to resolve that. And once interest arises, this could be an easy thing to fix because it is nobody is going to lose from it, as I suggest in the article. But some interests must arise. Israel, Syria, Lebanon must reach some consensus. This is something that is worthy of consideration. Let's think for once about 2,000 poor people that will just improve their lives tremendously, while not affecting our interests the slightest. And politicians, unfortunately, at least in my part of the world, do not think this way. I maybe also hear that they do the same. Politicians are politicians everywhere. It's a very difficult issue. I mean, I think I've done the work to show what needs to be done, and now there is this issue, the almost insurmountable level where, okay, so what do we do with it? How could we make a difference? And this is very difficult for me to envision progress in light of the bleak political situation that exists now in the region. Yes, you. Oh, I thought you.
Well, for you, Matt, one last question.
You've had the unique privilege of being able to interview quite a few of the villagers, and whatever the disposition of the village in a final boundary settlement between Lebanon and Syria, clearly their status as Israeli citizens is untenable. And I think you've said before that most of them would probably choose to stay. But what is the general sentiment on how that would be resolved once the village's territorial issues are sorted out?
Their official stand is that they have always been Syrians and they will return to be Syrians once the Golan Heights are returned to Syria. They are very careful. They do not like to be interviewed because they are afraid that somebody in Damascus is keeping records. It needs to be known that about half of the village in the 67 war, fled, never returned. So they have half of their families actually now in Damascus, and they are concerned about that. They bring brides from Syria. Israel allows them to do so because in a 2,000 population village, procreation here becomes an issue. So brides come from Syria. They send their kids to study in Damascus and they return. So they have very strong ties with Syria on the educational sociological level, cultural level. But economically, if you go to the village, they are completely tied to the northern part of Israel. They go to work in the kibbutzim in the tip of Israel, the Galilee Panhandle. You could go to Kibbutz Dan and see the production line of Kibbutz Dan, and you just see, hundreds of Ghajar people just working there. They work in archaeological excavations in the region. They speak Hebrew fluently. At least the men who go out speak Hebrew fluently. However, they are very careful, and they know that should Israel withdraw from the Golan Heights, they would be back in Syria, and they have to be politically savvy about that. It would change tremendously their economic conditions. As I've said, they are doing relatively well if you compare them not with the Jewish neighbors, but with other Arab villages in the north. And that would change. But that would also change for the Druze villages in the Golan Heights. Economically, the Druze villages in the Golan Heights are doing extremely well. That would change. I mean, they have tied themselves to Israeli economy, and that has a dramatic effect on their living conditions.
I think our next talk will be on Sheba Farms, but that's all the time we have for the moment, so thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.